All right, folks. Episode number 4, Plumb Bums Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We have some listeners we've noticed. We've been tracking the analytics, which is pretty cool. Got a listener from Belgium. Someone downloaded from Belgium.
Yeah, you showed me.
I don't know what that language in Belgium is.
Can't believe Belgian.
Oh, yeah. All right, fair enough. We actually are going to have our first guest on the podcast today, my Uncle Paul, the guy who I took over the business from. Paul, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Paul.
So we got me, Max, and we got me, the whole work crew today, except for Nancy. But I don't know. You excited to be on?
Yeah, I've been listening to the.
You got to move closer.
I've been listening to the first 3 of them. I think they're interesting. They're actually when I'm driving around, and it's something to. I listen to other podcasts, but when I turn this one on, I listen to stories. Very funny. I think you and Max work as good as a team. You guys sound good together.
When you turn this one on, everything changes.
He's just being nice.
Yeah, exactly. No.
He's just trying to support our dreams.
I think this. I would like to see this thing take off. I think you guys sound really good together.
Well, we wanted to. There's a couple people who have expressed interest in being on it, but I said, well, first and foremost, we have to get Paul on. That's only fair.
I'm here,
but no, I'm glad to have you on. I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, so I took over. It's about 7 years now.
Yeah, 7 years. When
you had enough.
Yep. Pull the plug. I'm done.
And then I joined on, and then 3 weeks later, you're like, all right, I'm out altogether.
You got 3 weeks to learn this.
If you need anything, call Rob.
Well, that's what Grandpa did to me. He's like, he dropped out of a heart attack, and he's like, learn it quick.
Actually, you know what? Before we even get into these questions, can you explain what happened with that? Grandpa's first heart attack. How did it go down?
Well, where was I? I was running my own construction company. We were doing small jobs.
What was the name of it?
It was Continental Construction, named after the block that we grew up on. And then I was doing that for years. I jumped out, did other things, did marketing, did to but I always came back to construction. Ever since high school, I think I knew I wanted to be on my own business when I was, gotta say, 9th grade.
What I kind of notice is most of the Cordtses are more entrepreneurs.
Yes, yeah, we
all. But they don't want to work for anybody.
It's a very hard thing for us to do, work for people.
It's also a very hard thing for people to work with us.
Yeah, no, because we know it all. I mean, we have every answer to everything, and that's why we're never successful in the way we should be. We don't listen to anybody. No. So what happened was that Grandpa, I'm going to call him my dad. It's easier. It's hard to call him Grandpa.
All right.
My dad was, he was working his business. He was actually doing work with us. He was our plumber, and then one day. We were sitting there and we were going up to your father's church, and he was watching TV, and your aunt, my sister, was home, and we were all going to see your brother preach that night. And he didn't move. He didn't want to go. He goes, "No, I'm not feeling too well." So I took, I think I took Philip. No, I took Daniel and Nicole. Pete and I took you took Nicole and Daniel up to the church. You were already up there because you lived up there. And then Nancy calls mom through some. Wait. Back then we had what? Paper cups and a string. And that's how we found the people out. No, we had. I think they contacted the church.
Yeah, they probably called the church number.
Yeah, they called the church number. Nancy says.
What year was that? Do you remember? 96? Was it 96?
It's 95, 96. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was around there, 95, 96. And Nancy said that Dad, not feeling good, ended up having a massive heart attack that night. So at that point, Grandma, my mom, was just, kind of freaking out a little bit, trying to pull stuff together. And, it was kind of it was the first time our family went through anything was major, especially, the breadwinner of the family, somebody who was always there, who had all the answers. And, Dad and I always worked together. When I was doing construction, he was always our plumber. Even when I was younger, he'd always take me out of school to do plumbing jobs. Help me with this water heater, help me with this boiler. And, over the years, I kind of learned plumbing through there. But the second I never really wanted to be a plumber. I was wanted to be a builder, build homes and be a contractor. And we did pretty well. We were building additions. We were doing new builds.
Did he ever have a crew, or was it always just him?
No, it was always just him. Yeah, he never wanted to hire anybody. He just wanted to do his own thing. He was a one-on-one plumber.
God.
Yeah, exactly.
A solo plumber at a time where they still put cast iron in.
Yeah. He never had a worker. Raising seven kids. I don't know how he did it. 7 of us, and he would actually. I don't want to get off the story there, but he would actually go when we were growing up. He would plumb all day long, and then we go out and he would drive a taxi cab at night.
Wow, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, and then he would drive a taxi cab at night, and then he would end up, getting up every morning, doing it over and over and over.
That was his quiet time, the taxi. The taxi driving.
It was.
He didn't want to come home to 7 kids and the wife.
That was his peace and quiet.
Yeah, his peace and quiet. He didn't need the second job. He just wanted the second job.
Yeah, no, that's funny. So it's true. So what happened was that once he had that, it was like turmoil for about a 2 or 3 weeks straight. And my mom came up. She goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. We got all these bills. We got this. I said, Mom,
customers waiting,
people calling, and we didn't want anybody hear that Dad had a heart attack or is sick, because then there goes the business.
Oh yeah.
So I said,
not to interject, but when I took over, everyone's like, well, I wanted Paul.
Well,
and then when you took over, everyone wanted Grandpa.
Everyone said the same. I was like, wait, where's your father? Yeah. I don't want you. Get out of my house. It's like,
yeah,
you guys have told me that too.
Yeah.
When I walk into somebody's house, and I walked into somebody's house, and they were like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
I don't want you.
We're still waiting for that to wear off on
Where's
Mac. It's been 5 years.
Where's Phil? Where's Paul?
I had that so many times. I was like, I'm here. I'm the one doing it. So
you didn't tell anybody?
No, we didn't tell anybody, because we felt, I just told Mom, I said, don't tell anybody, I'll just jump in a truck and we'll start doing jobs from there. So
what was the first truck?
The first truck was what was it? It was a blue pickup with an odd colored cap on it. I think that was the first truck. I don't know. It's just, we had so many. Yeah, and basically the back of the truck looked like the dumpster that you fill after construction job, because my father never cleaned the truck out after any job. So it was like the first day I get in the car or get in the truck, I drive around, and I'm going to the first job, and I think the first job was just to repair a toilet, and I was like, okay, this is pretty easy. It wasn't. I think it took me 4 hours to repair a flapper, and I sat there and I was trying to do the job. I went in the back of the truck, I opened it up, and just everything just fell out on me. And I was like, my first job, I almost cried, because I was like, well, I can't do this. I go, I'm not a plumber. I got jobs that I'm trying to get off on the construction side, and I'm trying to, finish those jobs up. I got those people yelling at me, but I got,
But you were still going to try to run the construction
No,
business?
I was trying to get out of it. Because I knew, in my mind, the second my dad had the heart attack, I said, my construction career is over. I'm going to be a plumber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was that quick. It was like I had to make a decision like that quick, because if I didn't, and I went back and forth, it wouldn't have been fair to Mom, trying to run that and do my business, and how do you split the money? So I said, forget it.
Did you switch that quickly because it's a family business and you wanted to keep that going, or did you switch because it was...
Because you just didn't like construction.
Because you just didn't... No, you just felt like that was over.
Yeah, I felt that was a period right then. I made a decision that quick. It wasn't like, let me think about it. I had to make a decision that quick that I was going to end my construction career building homes. And during that time, I had workers that every worker I had, I wanted to take to the top of the roof and throw them off, because they were always going to they were always trying to rip me off. They were always trying to do this. I got kind of, not to say it came at a perfect time, but it came at a time when I was sitting there and I was like, I had a lot to manage on the construction side. I said, you know what? It took me a couple of days. I said, if I can figure out how to do the plumbing, it looks like a smaller animal of the construction side.
Right.
And it seemed like it made more sense.
Well, there's not service construction, right?
No,
there's not really.
there
just,
is. You can
We have
do-
handyman
you can
type
do handyman
service,
stuff.
right?
Okay.
But he was building. You were building houses.
Yeah, we did houses. My first job as a contractor, we got a job at a level, and I had to hire 2 other contractors to help me. And this guy Lenny and I forget the other guy's name, two old guys, and all he did was one guy, Lenny, drank beer all day long on the job, and
Yeah.
and the other guy, I can't remember. Your father would know his name. I can't remember his name, but just two old cranky guys that were great contractors.
They did great work, right?
Did great work, but they're like, you'll never get a job this big. They were mad at me because I was so young and I got a big job like that.
Yeah.
And I said, really? Because I got another one coming up. If you want to work?
You were giving them all the work, and they were like, "You're never gonna get big jobs."
Yeah. Oh, every day.
Glug.
Yeah, every day this guy Lenny, he was amazing. He would show up with a case of beer.
It's crazy. My uncle was the same. Is the same.
I don't know how people work like that.
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, he would come with a case of beer, and he was doing the foundation then, and he would take the empty beer cans and just crush them and put them into the foundation. So
One for me and one for the house.
So he's sitting there and he's filling up these he's filling up the foundation with all these beer cans. And that was the first contract I worked with like that I was like, all right, let him do what he has to do. I'm not going to question him. But he would come down every day. In fact, your father was working with me at the same time. And your dad remembered the whole story.
Well, I remember when he was going to work. I was maybe
How long did that last?
5-6 years old. But I remember that when he would go to.
How long did it last that his father worked with you?
I know he stuck with me for a while. He stuck with me on jobs. I mean, he would. I was listening to the other podcast when I had him at jobs. Like, no, that was you when I took you out at midnight or Bernstein's midnight because I had to get this job done. I don't know why. It was one of those. Stupid
because they were coming in. We had to, and it was during winter, so we had to make sure everything was winterized and all that stuff because they were going to try to salvage like the basement floor.
Yeah.
But I remember being there at 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then when my dad was working with you, he was the associate pastor at...
Sparta?
No, in Mawa. Remember that little church in Mawa? Yeah. An associate pastor in a tiny little church, what is he making, $100 a week?
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing.
Yeah.
But then you guys lived up in that raccoon nest.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Lehman, the pool place...
Bought that place?
No, he's lived there his whole life.
Oh, really?
And when I got a job at that pool place, I was there for maybe 3 weeks, and then we passed something that I recognized. I was like, wait a second.
That's my bedroom.
That's my backyard. I couldn't. It was so funny. And then Dad had come up, and he actually met Vic, and they were talking for a little bit, and they were talking about how cruel the old landlord was. He was such a nasty old man. The roof caved in one night. We were all sleeping, and the entire half of the roof just caved in.
That and the raccoon. That you should just have your father on just tell the raccoon.
You know what?
Story.
Yeah. So my dad's going to be on in a couple of weeks. I'll have him tell the raccoon.
Let me go back to my story because I can go on a tangent with that one.
All right, go ahead. Where did you leave off?
So I left off where I had to make a choice right then.
Yeah.
Either I do construction or do that or go to plumbing. And I said, you know what, plumbing, it's a family business. I saw the pressure that grandma was under and my mom was under. I said, I'm not walking away. I'm going to do this right now. So my first job was, like I said, it was a toilet, and it just, plumbing's not hard. Once you figure out the basics of how to do it, you get it done, you figure it out, and then once it's done, it repeats itself in different ways. Yeah. And then once you get that down, you become an excellent mechanic. Yeah. So all the years I worked with my father, I never listened to him. I never, help me with a water heater, do this, sweat this, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I go, can't be this hard. Flabber took me like 2 hours. But I ended up charging the lady, I think it was like $300. And
in the mid 90s?
Oh yeah. So
Three out of your house, out of her house.
Well, let me go back on that story. So at the same time, my father's in the hospital trying to work himself through a heart attack. And he had a phone next to his bed. And every time I would go to a job, I would call him up and say, Dad, what do you do there? And he goes, would you stop calling me? He goes, charge what you want. I'm like, all right, I will. So then I think it was the first job. The first job was a toilet repair. I got $300 from it. He goes, how much did you get? I go, $300. He goes, what did you do? I go, I changed a flap and adjusted the thing. $300? He goes, I don't want to tell you anything. Just keep charging what you're doing. He goes, I never got $75 ever on a toilet repair.
$300 and you didn't give her a new toilet?
You know what I still have I've pinned to this bulletin board an old receipt from 1982 from Grandpa.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
I still have it in
Yeah,
there.
it's
We
like-
still see old stickers.
Yeah, we see the old stickers that we put on $100 for this boiler, or even older than that.
Yeah.
I mean, even older. I think you came your first winter. We came here and we pulled out a boiler that Grandpa had put in.
Yeah.
For 45 years earlier.
Yep.
And his old sticker was there and everything.
Did he have the one with the guy where the freezing? It looked like it didn't look like a radiator. It looked like a beer that was overflowing in the picture.
I haven't
There was an
seen
old guy
one in a
freezing
while.
next to a heater on his car, so he'd always stick those to the boiler.
Okay, I don't remember what it looked like, but I remember his sticker was there.
Yeah. So he put him. He was good at that. He put him everywhere. So then once he found out I didn't know how to charge and I was just overcharging everybody, he was like, "Don't change your way." And not that we overcharge customers. I'm just saying is that
There's a transition period there. You're
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what the number. I didn't know what numbers were, because when we had a construction business, I really didn't do my numbers. We were so busy. So, and it went on a couple weeks, and it just started picking up. And then the one job I think you talked about in your first podcast was your father and I did a water heater.
Yeah.
And
I hear that story all the time. I remember growing up listening to that
That
story.
was probably the funniest story ever because I was listening to it and I was like I wish I was like, no, and this happened. So it wasn't a single water heater. It was a dual water heater.
Oh, a tandem?
It was a tandem water heater. So one water heater fed
Still.
the other, and this lady had to be like 100 years old. She goes, "My water heater's leaking." I'm like, "Okay, we'll go down and fix it." I come like superhero here. I'm like, "I'm going to fix this. I'll have this done in an hour." I think it was 14 days later. We were like,
It was the next billing cycle.
No, you're
She passed away. She sold the house and she still has no hot water.
So the first call went out. It was to your father. I'm like, "Steve, you got to help me out here." I know we worked with Dad a million times, and I just still can't figure out how to do a water heater. So we go in there, and the both water heaters were got to be 40 years old. And back then, in the houses, there was no water filters, no nothing. So both water heaters at the bottom were about 6 inches of calcium built up. So we couldn't even drain them down. So first thing it took us.
We still run into that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The calcium's all over the place.
Yep.
So we ended up trying to shut it down, and both handles of each water heater broke off. And I'm like, oh, no. So
But there's
then
no water coming out. It
No.
was so backed up with calcium.
No. The handle to feed the
Oh,
water.
I got
Because
you.
it was leaking past that and it was going on her floor. So then I went to shut it down. The handles broke off. I'm like, oh, no. So then I went over to the water main, and it wasn't like a simple ball valve. It was that
of course.
old one you had to put a pipe on.
Yep.
And I remember how my dad showed me how to do this. We had wrenches here, and we almost broke that water main. And we just stopped it just to the point where we shut it off. And
Right.
It stopped. So we're sitting there. We're like, I start cutting the pipe, and the house would not drain down. I'm like, why is this thing not draining down? Problem is, we had back pressure coming in from. We had back pressure coming in from something. I don't know what it was. We found out she had a well pump tied to it. So
Oh my God.
It's the worst first
oh, yeah,
job.
that's the worst first job ever. She had some type of old well pump. I'm like, where's that water coming from?
You know what? We run into that all the time because we'll go to Nancy will call us. Oh, someone just called. It's like 4:00 in the afternoon. Someone just called. They just need a fill valve.
Yeah.
It's never just a fill valve. And we go, okay, if it came in at 9:00 in the morning, it would just be a fill valve.
Yeah.
But if it's 4:00 in the afternoon,
No,
they need a new shut off.
Yeah.
And then we need to turn off the house water, and then the handle breaks, and then you have to fix
Oh, can you
this.
just look at this for me while you're
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
That
It's
kind
just
of
it's
stuff.
always a nightmare.
That's when I'll say, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll live with it for a night. So the thing is that I don't want to drag the story out because I know you got other stuff we want to talk about. But real quick, we ended up finally shutting the water down, and we couldn't drain it out. So what happened was, I remember working with my dad. Every time he had a plugged drain off at the bottom, he would take a pipe and knock the calcium out,
Right.
and then put the plug back on.
Yeah.
So
Really quick.
really quick. So
Yeah.
so we unscrewed them, both of them, and I'm like, oh, there's the calcium. I see what my father did. I took a pipe, put it in there, and the water came out like it was a fire hose.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get the thing back on. So I was like, I don't know what that movie was where the fire hose was in the guy's face and he couldn't get. He was like trying to put the cover on the fire hose, and I was soaking wet within 30 seconds. Yeah. And then your brother's laughing at me.
My dad.
Standing there laughing at
sorry,
him.
my brother's laughing at me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So he tries to get on there. Meanwhile, this lady's basement was flooded in 30 seconds. You know? And we were like that. What's that movie, Home Alone, where the guy in the basement was like trying to stand up and he had all that glue on the floor and he kept slipping around. That was us. We were just dying. We were dying.
My God.
So we were trying to clean up, and all of a sudden you hear a voice. Are you guys all right? You need help down there? And we're dying laughing. I'm not dying laughing. I was like crying,
Frustrated.
Yeah. And
Well,
that was the first. We finally figured out, And then let me end the story here. Then my other brother Pete calls me. He goes, "Don't forget to use flux when you solder." I'm like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, what did I forget to do? I forget to put flux on the pipe. I was burning the pipe, and I was because I
would never catch.
Yeah, it would never catch. So
Sorry to interrupt, but hearing these stories of how you got started versus how experienced you are now, it's amazing because you think simple. It's something so simple. Flux the pipe before you sweat it.
Yeah.
And now, like when we have problems, well, who do we call? The guy who had all the problems in the beginning.
Yeah.
The guy who ran into all the problems in the beginning, and you ask him, and he knows everything.
And my father was the same way.
This is a thread through the Cordts family that we don't listen.
That's why you don't work for people.
Yeah.
You can't work for people because
we don't listen.
We know everything.
You tell me all the time that I have to learn the hard way.
Oh yeah,
with the numbers, with this, with that, taking certain jobs. It's true. Every single. I think I said it on like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I was like, you get all the Cordtses together apart. They were very different, but you get all of a sudden in the same room, and you're looking around. You're like, this is one person. This is one person wrapped into.
It's like
there's no difference between these people.
The walking
whatsoever.
Chronos for people. It's like one person. No, but that was it. That was after that. Then I got real serious, and I said, okay, I can't jerk around. And so that truck that I had, it took me 2 years to get an actual van. So we were so broke at that time. I was working, give my mom the money. She was paying the bills, and we were going back and forth. And I just accepted there's where I'm going to be.
Right.
Meanwhile, my friends are doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. I'm like, wah, wah. I'm like, so I'm sitting there, and for 2 winters, I don't have heat in my truck. So I would go on the coldest day, start that blue truck up, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to do it today. This is where I become a winner in life. Tony Robbins says you got to go through the hard times.
Tony Robbins says you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
You're like putting his tapes in the tape deck, trying to stay motivated.
Tape deck chews it up,
spits it out while you're taking a T-shirt to wipe off the fog.
Here's your life.
It just ends up in the packed pile of all the stuff in the back of the truck.
I'll get it later.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah, and then it led us here. So,
well, let me ask you. So you took over. Let's say 96 was the year you took over. How long did it take? Because I remember there was a bunch of trucks on the road. There were guys working for us. Cordts started to flourish, but how long did that take?
That took. I would say it probably took about 5 years.
5 years to really get in the groove?
5 years to finally sit there. And when I first started out, I didn't know what numbers were. I didn't know the profit and loss. I didn't know any of that stuff. I knew it. I just never thought it applied to my business.
Right.
I was like, oh, everyone else does it. I don't do that. I just need to know off the top of my head. And that's why I went into jobs and I would just charge whatever. And the 5th year, I said, I got to know my numbers because I had friends that were in the industry. I started making friends in the industry. And they're like, well, how much you charge for this? And I'm like, I charge them this. Like, how'd you get that price? I'm like, well, and I just really throw the bull at them. Like, oh, yeah, I just figured out this. And they're like, oh, can you show me those numbers one day? I'm like, no. Because then that means I got to really sit down and do my numbers.
Yeah.
And like the 5th year into it, I said, I'm going to start learning my numbers. And that's when I started taking all my numbers of what it costs to run a business, material, this, that. And that took a long time, because at that time I started reaching out to other companies who in other states. I went to California.
Yeah, you took a lot of trips to go check those out.
Maurice Mayo out in California, Frank Blau up in Milwaukee.
Maurice Mayo, Ronnie was talking about him in class one night.
Yeah.
Maurice
Oh, yeah.
Mayo. Yeah.
He started me as far as getting the numbers down.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a Maurice Mayo book right there.
That price book?
That price book is Maurice Mayo.
How old is that price book?
It's got to be 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 20-year-old book. It's got to be older than that. It's got to be.
Oh, listen, I'm not tossing it because it gives us a good basis.
Yeah.
But
Maurice Mayo, that's a book that they built for me. And the numbers were off. They were more California numbers, and their business in California cannot even match up to New Jersey because it's different.
it's almost a different industry.
Yeah, well, it's different geography. Like you need to put a water heater and a boiler in your truck in California because your job's not 5 minutes away; it's an hour and a half
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And you have to have a rolling box. We have supply houses every 15
Right.
feet.
Yep.
We talked about that.
Yeah. So you don't have
how
to
lucky we are, like not keeping stock.
Yeah, it is a good thing. That's when I used to keep stock. So it was. I didn't know better. I didn't know all I know was where I wanted to be, and I always wanted to have 5 trucks doing $250,000 a year, doing $1.2 million a year. And that's a number I had. We were getting there, and the problem was that even though we knew our numbers, we didn't know how to balance our numbers.
Right.
And we were spending this and doing this, and like I said, I flew out. Oh, I was all over. I went to visit companies in Indiana. I went to visit Texas, and then I joined these businesses that were trying to sell you a franchise. And I looked at Plumber Success International. These are all good industries right now, but or franchises. But every time I went to talk to somebody, I would give them the format of that company. I have a couple good friends who are very good in business, and I'm like, no, you don't want to do this. Just keep your own name, know your numbers, you'll do well. And then over the years, it just kind of grew. We bought trucks, we hired guys, and there was a lot of leap by faith. I would just jump across a brook and say, okay, I hope it works. Every time it worked, it worked out great because we made success with it. Then we hired one plumber, 2 plumbers, 3 plumbers, and then the area where I didn't know, I would, like the bigger jobs, I said, don't take those jobs.
Yeah.
Those are the jobs where I learned on that not to take those jobs anymore. Stick to service, but again, you panic, you're like, oh, I gotta get money in here.
Yeah.
And
because the big jobs come in summer when plumbers are generally slow.
Yeah,
Plumbers and heaters. And you're kind of like, I should really take this job. But I think we were talking about it when I said, don't just take it to take it. Because if you're going to lose money.
Well, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest.
If it's going to hurt you in the long run, you can run around and stay busy for a month and not meet your numbers, or you can not take that job and leave the time open for stuff that floods in and build a bigger job from that invoice.
Yeah. And what I learned also is that these bigger companies, they don't do bigger jobs. They don't.
Yeah.
It's all service work.
Exactly. The ones you see all over on TV and the billboards, like the 24-hour service stuff.
Yeah. Those guys, you don't see those guys at addition
They're not
jobs.
roughing out houses.
No, they're not. They're doing service work. And I finally got to a point I said, okay, I need to run my business like it's Sears. I don't see Sears building the dishwasher. I see them just fixing the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I said, I got to keep focus on that and that small stuff. And what that did is just it educated me more on how to become more of a businessman. And, again, it's the courses. We just don't listen. We have to go through hard knocks. And that's when you were going through that. I was like, I know he's going to learn it. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to go through this again. But, if you were going to take over the company and run the way you are, now the company is at a much higher level than I've ever been at. Because the numbers are not only do we know the numbers, but those numbers allow us to make decisions.
Well, there's also a bigger access to technology than there was 25, 30 years ago.
I had a book.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask you, when you guys started building, what were you doing for advertising?
We were doing this old thing. It's called the Yellow Pages. It was and there was a good friend of mine, Mike from Waterworks, had all the big spots. He had full pages. Now, Mike is a multimillionaire, sold his company a couple of years ago. He's part of our association. Really good guy. He helped me out a lot. We're very good friends. And whenever I got into trouble, he would always come over and say, Paul, do this. I'll help
There was
you out."
only Yellow Pages? That was it? Just throwing books in?
Or that, or you go down, you see Route 17, a billboard, or you go radio advertisement.
Yeah.
And that was so far. But no. Our biggest advertisement was my father said, put your paper in the town news. Put your advertisement in town news, and you'll get plenty of work. And I was like, nah, I'm fine. I took it out of there for 2 weeks. My phone stopped ringing.
Really?
Yeah. And then I put it back in and it started ringing
Yes.
again. Yeah. So I just like, all right, I go, and
Well-
that was the cheapest way to do it.
But we have town news today is basically Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm in a bunch of River Edge groups. Plus, I want to stay current on what's going on in the town, especially with the switch that they want to do with the schools.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
So I'm kind of following that. But your Yellow Pages has become social media.
Yeah.
And once you jump into, like, when we're trying to improve on advertising, it's all about, there is no more Yellow Pages. There is no more town news. It's all online. It's all social media. And the problem is, if you don't have someone in your company to figure that out, you have to hire somebody.
And that's what you do. You're better. I mean, when the bonus of having you take over the company was the fact that you know how to do that stuff. And you're like, oh, I got these many hits.
I didn't know how to do a lot at first.
Yeah.
It did take me a while to figure out, because you remember when I first started, we took someone from the church I was going to out to lunch. Do you remember this? He was like a yuppie, tatted up.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
And we sat down. We're like, we want to kind of hire you, and then he put the invoice in front of us.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we don't want to hire you, but
Because it costs so much. How much does it cost?
he was gonna.
Yeah,
I
can you
wanted
pay for our
to. I
lunch?
wanted to put out some kind of media, and he was gonna bring in a whole film and lighting and all this. And then he's like, you know what? Let me give you some advice. And he talked to us about Google SEO.
Yeah.
He talked to us about utilizing social media,
Yeah.
about making a blog
Yeah.
and using the blog to boost your stuff up. So pretty much all our presence on social media has been completely organic.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. What do
Hey,
you
I
say?
wanted to ask you how you told me how long it takes for you to get your company
It took a
pushed
long
to the
time.
first page of Google when
If you're
somebody
doing
looks
it
up local
completely
plumber.
organic,
Yeah,
it took us 2-3 years.
yeah.
Did Michael Eberson help you?
No, not at all.
Okay. So because when he used to work for us.
Well, he gave me actually, Mike gave me some pointers.
Yeah.
He said you should use this, you should do that.
Yeah.
And then he stormed off like Napoleon Dynamite to his words.
Here's the thing I want to talk about between the two of you is the difference between how localized everything was with you,
Yeah.
because with you it was put your name in the local papers versus you now it's put your name on social media
the local
and
pages.
then no less so local pages for us now, and you just put your name
Out there.
in social media, and it gets to, like we saw, Belgium. I mean, you get it as far
Yeah.
out as Europe versus him who just advertised in the local paper and his
Right.
phone was ringing off the hook. Not that we go that far, but it's
It was a different.
a different
I mean,
time.
you were born 95.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, the world today and the world back then, nobody had a cell phone.
Yeah.
It was just totally different.
Like,
Yeah, when he handed me this book over here, when Paul handed me this book, he was like, "Here, this is our numbers. Learn it." And I was like, "Book?
what is that?
I have a
Paper.
telephone. I have."
How does this thing move?
I have this.
What is this thing that goes back?
And then he
forth?
goes, yeah. Phil's like, "There's an atlas. There's a map in the truck." And,
If you need to use it.
and he's like, if you need to use it, this is what it is. And I'm like, map.
It's like when that big block stone drops down in
Yeah.
what's that movie?
What is this? Are you gonna have me drive a stick shift too? I don't.
I had to use the. I had to use that. What's that? I forget that map. You open a book. You look at the number. You look at the number, and you look at the number, and all of a sudden it finds your location. And it didn't
Yeah.
give the exact street. You had to find your street within that little box.
That's how I had to get it.
if
That's
my-
how I had to get a job at Lehman.
Yeah.
I had to read a map.
Oh, you
if my
did? Yeah.
GPS is down, I'm lost.
Yeah.
If it's not in Paramus
Yes.
Right.
or River Edge local, I'm lost.
See, that's the difference between us old guys
Yeah.
and you. You know, we can still start a fire with two sticks.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, but listen, the experience was good. I think where Philip's taking this thing is much. I mean,
We're getting there.
no, but I think this. Listen, when you first came in, it was very, very frustrating because as a teacher of the business, because I was like, 2008 almost wiped us out, almost cleaned us.
I wanted to actually bring that up.
All right,
If you can just talk about it. If you can kind of talk about when 2008 happened.
Yeah. Well, what happened was that where was I? Where was it? 2008.
You were living in Maywood.
I was living in Maywood. Patty and I just got married. About 4 years into it, and then 4 years into it, and turns out that the economy everyone was buying homes for $1, and I think we had about 3 homes that we purchased. Because not that we were buying for $1, but we had
It was aggressive loaning.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
well, but we weren't one of those people like, yeah, give me a home. I think I can afford. No, we had people, we were renters, we had
Right.
restaurant people that were renting it, and it was great. We were making money. And then one of my Wall Street buddies says, "Hey, hold on to your hat." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "There's a crash coming." I go. At that time I didn't believe him. I'm like, "What do you mean a crash?" I couldn't. Things were so good. I was like, "There's no way." And I go, "This is the best time of my life. I'm doing this. I can buy this and buy that." And
you had 3 trucks on the road.
yeah, 3 trucks on the road. We were doing great. And all of a sudden, 2008 came in, and it was almost like overnight. Switch went off and shut everything down. I mean, the only people who were making money are people who knew it was coming. Wall
Right.
Street guys, smart businessmen who knew their numbers, and were able to adjust. We were not able to adjust.
Right.
At that time, Patty and I owned two houses in Maywood, house in River Edge. We had people renting it, and all my renters started stiffing me, and they're like, "Well, I can't make the rent." I'm like, and I had no recourse to say, "Well, you got to."
Well, you don't. There's no recourse for
So,
landlords.
yeah, so we had Charlie Brown's restaurant staff. We had one house just filled that whole staff, that filled our whole apartment, and that we had rentals on, and they fired half their staff, and they were gone, and that was that was like it was a big nut. It was like $5,000 a month. It was crazy. It was a crazy number. And then then my one in Maywood, that guy lost his job, and then the guy upstairs lost his job, and they had to go home back and move back. One guy moved back to his homeland. I don't know where he was from. And then it was like the chips just kept falling off.
Yeah.
And then the phone just stopped ringing.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was like, all right. And I said, okay, God, this is where I am. I go. Charlie Brown's kitchen staff, they just picked up and left. And just left my house in shambles, so I couldn't even sell it.
How many people were living there?
Had to be 20. It was just, you didn't say anything because it's like,
Right.
hey, money,
Because they're
money.
paying
Yeah.
rent.
They're paying rent.
Well,
It was
Charlie
like,
Brown's was taking care of that.
yeah,
The rent.
yeah, they were paying rent, and things, it was just great, and ended up, it was just every little piece would drop off, and then, like I said, the phones just stopped ringing. Because Cordts Plumbing, he just no calls, no one was spending any money, everyone was all nervous, and then it just stopped. It just no way to get money in. So
Yeah.
then I started getting creative. I just would get discounts to people, and that worked for a while. And then it was really tough because Obama was the president, and they could have fixed this thing in 11 months.
Yeah.
They could have changed the economy, got it back up in gear, and they didn't. It was a political thing. And
It's intentional.
it was intentional, draw it out for 8 years. And then after 8 years, we started to get back the first year, after losing everything. We lost our homes. We lost a lot.
I think so. That happened in 2008. I came on 2016, maybe.
Yeah.
2015.
2014, I think it was.
I'm pretty sure it was a year before Trump got elected. So
was it?
I think it was 2015, and I kind of think you never really mentally
No,
you
no,
never
no.
put mentally went back into the
No,
business.
that was worse. Anything ever beat me up on.
So how long were you in your success period from the time that you started to the time that the '08 crash happened? Was it 8 years?
No, probably longer than that.
Longer than that?
it was
Well,
like
you said
12
1996, right? You took over.
Yeah, still probably the full time, 12 years. Once we took off, it was
Okay.
Yeah,
So it took
yeah.
it took you 2 years to figure everything out.
Yeah. Once
And
we took off, it was successful. I always watch the market now. I always watch the weather. The bellwether of the economy now. Always, because I always get concerned about where it is right now. Everyone's saying we have another recession coming up, and in my mind I'm thinking, okay, we know our numbers, we know where we got to be. Philip knows what he has to do.
We got a rainy day fund.
Yeah,
we got a safety net this time.
Yeah, so we shouldn't get smacked around. So it took me about a year to really pull myself together. And Patty was very good at it. She was sitting there and she was getting nervous. She'd never been through it. But one thing that my father always did is that he was always we had an office on Continental Ave, and we had the whole second floor because everyone moved out, so we made him our office. And my father would get up every morning, and I'd be like, "Oh, Dad, this is gonna happen. We gotta do this. We gotta make money, and this is." And he would sit there, and he would go get his coffee, and then he would sit there with wife beater T-shirt on
Yep, yeah.
across this table, and he starts just laughing at me. He goes, I go, what are you laughing at? He goes, it'll be all right. He goes, it'll work out.
Yeah, he was very much like
He's lived through tougher stuff.
Oh yeah. This was nothing to him. He's
Yeah.
like, lose?
I'm obviously I'm the firstborn. I'm the first oldest grandson out of what 14, 15?
Yeah.
I was the first, maybe not that. I think 12 or 13. But I didn't know. We've talked about it on the podcast. Growing up, Grandpa was a tough guy. Yeah. He struggled with
Very
alcoholism and stuff. But I always knew from the time I was born, him being this teddy bear. Not so like a teddy bear with a rough and tough teddy bear.
All bark, a lot of bark.
Yeah, but I don't know that I didn't really know the hard grandpa. But for him to go from what he was way back then to sitting on and is just sitting in his wife beater laughing at you saying everything will be all right, don't worry about it.
First of all, he was so happy he was there, because the pressure was off him, and he knew I can take the pressure. He knew that this is what I wanted, so he was happy about that. He was like, okay, great, my son's taking it over. It was a up and down. You saw the up and down stuff. You saw the fact that we're trying to build it, and he's like, whatever you want to do, it'll work out. He's like, his one statement, he was like, hey, don't worry about it. God's got control of this.
Yeah.
I have another question about that. Did he kind of feel like it was going to be you more so than you have seven brothers, right?
Yeah, no one wanted to do this.
Oh, absolutely. out of all of them.
No one wanted
Well,
to do this.
I know your father.
Well, let's go through it. Well,
you have other brothers that are in construction too,
Well,
right?
Well, now
yeah.
they are.
Now
Mike
They
is in
weren't then.
construction. He does construction.
Yeah, but they were, you understand at that time, they were still in the ministry.
Yeah.
They were still, Phil's dad was still trying to preach until he got out of it. And then my brother Mike in Alabama, he was preaching. And then he went to the same raw deal that Philip's father got. And they both said, we're done. We're going back and trying to make money because they were losing money. So I'm the only one who really was in the construction. Pete was more of the management design.
Yeah.
He was the guy who had the idea to build things. He's very smart on let me build this and design this, and
really good artist.
Very good artist, and that was his thing. He didn't want to get his hands dirty with any plumbing. My brother Joe, he went the other way, and he just said, I'll reach in this pile of crap and pull out $1,000 bill.
Yeah,
because he was just smart that way. He was always smart. It just in that way. I was the only really person from the beginning. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 8th to 9th grade, even 7th grade. I knew I wanted to build something. I wanted to be in construction. That's how long it was, So, and my father saw that. He saw that. I was the only one really building clubhouses and trees when we were younger. I was the only one doing all that construction. I would take on building the deck in the house. I would do the outside. Like I built I put on the whole addition. I did the whole outside. I did the whole foundation of my parents' home.
Yeah.
We had no contract. I did it all. And my friends were like, how'd you know this stuff? I go, I don't. It just came to me. And I'm not so like, oh, I'm great. I'm just like, construction came to me like numbers come to account.
There's people who are inclined.
Yeah, and that was it. Yeah.
So, I mean, not to say that I'm great, but I started playing the piano out of nowhere when my parents got a piano.
Yeah.
And our family so we have an
Devil
entrepreneurial.
Mother.
I'm just staring at mom like this while I'm playing. But
Hey, that's my son.
But I think, listen, there's a lot of demons in our family, but we're
It's a lot of talent
very
too.
talented.
Very talented.
I mean,
I don't have that.
yeah, you're athletically talented. I mean, any sport he'll pick up right away. He's athletic, which I don't have. I don't have it all.
Yeah.
I mean, try playing basketball with me. He invited me out to play basketball once with his friends. We went to 24-hour.
I was just like,
I'm like,
yeah,
listen,
I
I don't really. So I'm like,
do
all right,
plumbing
fine,
together.
I'll do it.
We'll do
And then they're
plumbing
like,
together.
listen, don't bring him back.
Don't.
Just-
He just gets in our way.
yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah.
You know what? This is what we'll do. Let's take a little intermission here.
All right.
We'll come back, and then we'll have more conversations and stories about the past. But yeah, stick with us. We'll be back in a few. you guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
I want my notepad.
Intermission. You want your notepad?
Yeah, give me my notepad.
Well, hold on. Let me.
My questions.
Fine. You can ask questions. We're back here on. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. We're back here with my Uncle Paul, Max, as always. The two dogs hanging out. But now we're just sitting here sharing stories. I wanted to say something, bring something up. It in my mind today at some point, but I totally forgot it. Anyway, what were we talking about when we left off?
He was telling more stories. I don't remember exactly what the stories were.
First of all, is this a brand new studio?
No, but I did want to ask.
Is that real
him,
cinder block?
Are those quality shelving that you can get at Ace?
This is why we're not doing video yet, because if you saw.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, because now you're less so in the field. You don't do too much of the field work, right? More so in the office.
Yeah.
You still help us out with everything, but you also, what do you do now?
So I took a job with Dumont Board of Education. A buddy of mine, Jim Wickman, is a principal, and at that time, my wife and I had a conversation, and she's like, can we survive doing this? And I'm like, we can. She goes, but you don't look like you can do it anymore. I'm like, I can. Philip's in here, and Philip is a big help. He's a big thing. She goes, and she was more like, can we afford to do you and Philip? And the money I wanted to make, probably not.
At the time.
No. Yeah. Now we can. Yeah. If I came back, I think we can probably turn this thing and turn into $1 million company.
Well, and not to get political, this has nothing to do with politics, because everything that happened exactly how it went down. I started 2015, and you, like I said, you seemed like you were kind of like, I
was burnt.
Yeah, just burned out. The second Trump got into office, it blew up.
Yeah, it turned around.
The day.
Yeah.
That day, and then
Make Cordts great again.
we've been kind of we've been kind of up and down here and there, but there's definitely a difference since 2016. Now, right now, Nancy can even sense it on the phones that people are apprehensive to spend money.
Yeah.
So now we have to figure out how to alter our business and alter our approach and figure out advertising to compensate for that. So what do? We offer options. We offer people 6 different options where they can pick in their budget. We'll make sure that the bottom option has everything that's going to make sure that your emergency is going to be taken care of. But if you want to prevent having another plumber to deal with something down the road, we'll take care of a whole bunch of stuff in one shot. That's your top option. You get a really good warranty. So I think that has definitely kind of been helping.
Yeah, just so you don't get caught for plagiarism.
What?
Mike Conroy was the guy who introduced us to pricing,
To the options.
to the option pricing. Now he's a big part of why we took that next step.
Yeah.
He built us numbers crunchers, and he's a good friend of ours. And
I sat in his seminar.
yeah, he's excellent. And that's how, when I sat with Philip in that seminar to tell us about our numbers, I mean, he was, out of all the guys I saw about numbers, he was the more relaxed, like, all right, here's the numbers.
He just knew it.
He just
The one
knew.
not trying to sell you something.
No.
The one that was just like, listen, it's this easy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just have to know this. If you know this, you know your
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. So, and that's what it came down to. It came down to where he was so relaxed and telling you about it. And again, he had, how many people were in that room? There had to be 50 plumbers in that room. I would say if you got 2 or 3 that are following that, I mean, that's the numbers game. So you look at the amount of people that sat there.
Guys are in their habits.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You got a guy next door who was in that meeting, and he's like, I'm good. But you'll be putting the flapper in for $50,
Right.
and you're wondering why you can't pay your bills at the end of the month. You were just talking about, you see people are hesitant in pricing. People are always hesitant in pricing.
Yeah.
And no matter what industry it is, people are like, well, how can you, I go to a store, and Patty gets uncomfortable when I ask the guy we just bought a washing machine. I go, is that the best you can do? She's like, Paul, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, I want to see what I can get, because if I don't ask the question, you're going to, it's how you present it. And I think with the 6 options always gives the person the right way to look at it. And they're not sitting there like, one price, you go on one price, you're done. You got one shot. It's a one cork, you're done. And then you had to figure out why I didn't get that job. if we go in with 6 different prices, and this is what Mike taught us, he said, you go in 6 different prices, he goes, the percentage up here at the top, you got maybe 1%. The percentage at the bottom is another 1%. It's going to be right in the middle. And you already put yourself into a 30% profit on the job itself. You're not ripping off the customer.
Right.
They're making the decision. All they got to do is point at what option, and that's it. Once they look at those options and say, I want that one, that one, that one. And
the warranty is going to fluctuate between the options.
Yeah.
Because if you're going, I don't know any other company that's offering a 5-year warranty on anything.
Well, if you go to Gold, these franchise company, Ben Franklin and all these companies, they have a lot of warranties, but they have the experience and knowledge that backs them up to allow them to handle those warranties, because they get a lot of warranties.
Yeah.
Then that's why, if we go to sell Cordts Plumbing, they don't look at your company, how many trucks you have. They see how many service contracts you have,
right.
How many people are you servicing in Bergen County. They don't say, oh, you got 4 trucks, because once you buy a company and you change ownership, that company automatically takes a dive.
Yeah.
And it goes into the toilet. Not in the toilet, like when Mike.
Well, it's something you have to recover from.
Yeah, exactly. When Mike from Waterworks sold to Gold Medal, was it Gold Medal? Is it Gold or something Gold? I mean, it's a franchise company. Once they took Mike out of the equation and they ran it themselves, customers walked away.
Yeah.
Then you get different management. That's why, everyone's like, oh, I'll sell my company. Well, first of all, you got to find a company that wants to buy your business. Back in 2008, 2009, before Philip came in, there was companies that were going to buy smaller companies, because they said the real way to build your business is buy other businesses. Yeah, that's fine. But if that company can't show you the right way to do numbers, they found out that there wasn't enough companies out there that were doing the right numbers.
Right.
They were like, oh, I have 10 trucks on the road. Well, you got to understand, some of these guys who have 10 trucks on the road are living from paycheck to paycheck still. They just got a lot of bills.
Right.
I mean, I have friends who have, they buy something and then they're like, okay, I got to work. It's going to take me 2 years to pay that off. I have a good friend of mine, Dan Kinnigan, excellent businessman. He knows his stuff. Kinnigan Landscaping. He's got trucks all over the place. He's funny. He laughs. He goes, I don't know, I'm buying something else. Now he makes a ton of money. He does well. And that's one thing I did. I always not surrounded myself purposely with people who know what they're doing. I just made friends with.
Yeah. Made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you.
Paul made a lot of friends everywhere we go.
We can't go anywhere.
How many people? How many people stop me in the truck or I'm on a stoplight and they've rolled down the window.
Where's Paulie?
Where's Paul? How's Paulie doing?
How's Cordtsy doing?
Jeez. He knows everybody and everything.
Yeah, we walk
supply house, the manager of the supply house knows him. Every company that we work with, where's Paulie?
Well, then I'll call Paul and be like, oh, this guy said hi. He's like, who's that?
Yeah.
I have no idea who he is. That came from my father. My father was the same way. My father knew everybody. It's like we were talking about going into jobs when Philip took over. Philip's like, nobody wants to talk to me. They want to talk to you. I'm like, give it some time.
Yeah.
Same thing happened to my dad. When where's your father? Where's your father? And it's just, you always got to put yourself out there and always meet other people, other companies, because there's one little thing that company will show you,
right,
and it'll change your business. This company, Maurice Mayo, showed me one little thing, and it changed my numbers. That number chart where it gives us the example and the actual, that came from a company in Florida of a buddy of mine who came from Plumber Success International. He just gave me a sheet one day. I was walking out the door. He goes, "What's it?" He goes, "You might want to follow this. It shows you how to do numbers, or it shows you an idea of where you want to be." Ever since I left that one sheet, I based all our numbers off of. And it was just a fluke. I'm walking out the door to get on the plane. He's like, here, you might want to take that for you.
We profit off of all of those relationships.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we work together with all of these companies that that you're friends with the owners and stuff like that. We work with them, give them job referrals too. I walked into the building that my buddies live at. The doorman saw me walking with the shirt, and he goes,
"How's Paulie?
How's Paulie doing? You know Paulie?" And I was like, I can't go anywhere in Bergen County without somebody knowing Paul.
No,
but it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
My grandfather was a social butterfly, though. The same thing. Remember his funeral?
Oh yeah.
We had the funeral. We had the funeral set up over here, right over here.
Yeah.
And we all set up for it, and the line was down the road to come in. It was insane.
Oh, it's crazy.
This one guy walked in. He was like a homeless guy.
Yep, homeless.
And he's like, your grandfather, he would buy me a cup of coffee and pray with me for years. And people would walk in, oh, Richard touched me this way. Richard touched me that way. He used to minister to me this way. It was like, holy smokes. And then you don't realize that. And then now I'm to the point where, oh, how's Phil? How's Phil doing? Like, oh, you know, and it.
I haven't asked it. I haven't heard anybody ask.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's always
No,
Paul.
I get that all the time. People like, oh, Philip's doing a great job. I'm like, and I'm out of the picture. You know, I'm out of the picture. I know the question you asked is, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
You know, so you know, because now Philip is the face of our company, and
Frankie's the
actually-
face.
Frankie's the face of the company. But yeah, like you guys now, that Max being with us. I mean, you guys are the face of the company, and we want to grow from there. So I took a job when it got tough, and this is where Philip jumped in. I said, you know, I talked to my wife about it. I said, I got to, you know, Philip looks like he wants to come in. My buddy Jim Wickman says there's a job opening for a position as a director of buildings and grounds. I'm like, you know, I got a lot of experience in business. I got a lot of experience with dealing with people. I'm not the best as far as clerical work. You know, like when you get into a school district, it's all like, you know, where's your report and follow up? Oh, it drives you nuts.
Yeah.
But you know, listen, I've been there, and after 7 years, I'm just starting to learn it now.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you too. Is that, do you like where you're at now, and do you recommend that for people who are in the trades, because you are still kind of in the
I love where I'm at now. It's the best job I've
no. Your
Is anybody gonna hear this from my school?
Yeah, your experience and your experience is what brought you to where you are now. And I guess I don't want to call it a comfortable situation, but you have like a little bit more of a comfortable situation where you have this nice steady job. And
You don't come home looking like that anymore.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't. I come home looking like I'm dressed like in front of you. But it's a different stress. It's still stressful because what my position is, I manage 8, I think it's 7 or 8 maintenance guys and about 32 custodials, you know, and is it different? It's completely different because it has nothing to do with the business knowledge. My business knowledge doesn't even help me in there because the budgets and stuff are handled in a business office. My job is more managing.
And you have to understand each one of those trades that comes in.
And I do.
Yeah.
I do. It's just something I just picked up on. So, you know, one thing I'm complimented on is that when an emergency happens or something has to get done, it gets done. The other part that it takes me time is the clerical end of it. Is not the clerical. It's I would say the numbers, the reporting.
Yeah.
Working for the government.
computers.
Kind of.
No, not the computers.
No?
It's the, like in schools you have to have reports, like, you know, are the playgrounds fixed? You know, give me the history on the playground.
You have standards that have to kind of be upheld and kept.
Yeah, exactly. Is this fixed? Is that fixed?
All right.
And, you know, and in our industry, we don't have to have that. You know, it's fill the truck, go out to the job, because it's all up here.
Yeah.
You know, and you build it. In the school districts, you're
Always reporting to
always
somebody.
reporting. Exactly. You're always reporting. Now, I have about, I think it's 60 other schools that we, 60 other schools that are in my association. So we all get together and we talk about it, and everyone goes to the same problem. You know, it's a superintendent and the business administrator that run the show. You know, the buildings and grounds guy is kind of like the grunt, not the grunt, but I'm saying they're the guy that has to handle everything behind the scenes and make sure it works. You know, so yeah, it's a challenging job. It's different stress. I mean, I'm stressed sometimes about a lot of stuff, you know, but sometimes more stressed there than I would be in here, you know. But, you know, my stress with Cordts Plumbing was never to doing a job. Sometimes it was more like growing. That was my stress. Trying to get bigger, trying to build a company was more of my stress. So I would see other trucks with 2 or 3 trucks out there, and I'm like, oh, well, how did they get the truck?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and why does this truck look better than mine? You know, I mean, and, you know, when Philip came in, he bought that extra, you know, design. Like that Cordts Plumbing, I asked Philip to make, I go, this is what I like to see. Can you make me a design?
He told me
When
the
I was
logo.
11 or 12 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I said,
designed
can
that.
you make me something looks cool? I want something that looks like more of a round circle, California looking, you know, so people remember it.
And
You
you
know.
see that truck, you see that
Yeah.
logo from down the street.
Everyone.
Grandma said all the
recognizes
time, she goes, I don't care. I know it's our name, but she goes, I can see your trucks from a mile away.
Yeah.
You know, because of,
It's simple.
yeah.
That's the thing. It's simple.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a simple logo. And once he made that, I printed it up and said, there we go. You know, so
I remember when we were laughing. You remember when Grandma was in the house and in the little living room area where the fireplace is in your house now, how she had that
She's still
table?
there.
How she
Oh God.
she sprinkled over the thing. That's terrible.
She's still there.
Holy cow.
she's still in the corner.
You can see the chair rocking every once in a while.
Chair rocks at night.
But she had the table with all the pictures of the married,
All the family. Yeah.
So we're sitting there for Christmas. So the table's sprinkled with Pete and his wife,
Yeah.
Nancy and
What?
Don.
What? So what do you mean
with
sprinkled?
pictures.
Oh.
Just pictures, like a whole bunch
Jeez.
of photos and frames.
Okay.
And then, so I remember my dad made this joke, and Paul and Patty are on like a 9x12 in the middle of their wedding picture, right in the middle. There's like a spotlight from the ceiling, like the golden child. And you know what's funny in your wedding picture?
There's a cross
the
above
cross,
my- cross
the
above
cross
my-
in the back of the sanctuary that the photographer just happened to get. It's like, geez, you think she's trying to tell everyone something?
There was a cross on the top of my head. I was like,
Meanwhile, everyone's like,
Yeah.
their pictures are like the photo booth that you get from the shore. Like,
they're
just,
like they started turning brown because they've been in the sunlight for so long.
it's so funny. You know what? I'll never forget.
These are the children that didn't take over the business.
I have to pick them up every day because they fell on their face.
Oh man! And that frame, your and Patty's frame was
gold.
bolted to the floor. Yeah, it would last through a hurricane. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about right now, but you know what? I'll never forget. So most of the Cordtses lived in this area when we were growing up. So every Christmas, and then Mike,
Lived in the house.
yeah, and then Mike and Darlene would drive up for Christmas. So all the cousins would come up. So Christmas and Thanksgiving, it was the huge holidays, just packed house. Do you remember when you guys were trading? This was one of the funniest things I'll never forget. You guys were trading gifts, like the aunts and uncles were trading gifts, and you gave Linda this ceramic pot, and you're like, listen, this was made on site specifically for you. And it was like, I don't know, 1998 or something like that. And she turns it over. She's like, great. And it was like sketch 1994. He's like, no, they fired it right in the kiln, like right in front of you.
We had to go back and pick it up. So what happened was there was a place in the city. It's like, we'll make your kilns and and whatever. We'll fire here and then you can pick it up in a couple of days. So we did. I had it made up. And then I went back and I picked it up and they're like, here you go. And I'm like, okay, never looked underneath to look at the date.
Lady had like
It was like 2 years. It was made like
manufactured
2
in
years.
Thailand.
Exactly.
But for the next 2 hours, it was
cutting me
just making fun of the whole situation. Like my dad comes in, the lady's like, oh, be careful. It's still hot from the kiln.
That was
It was so funny. And I remember all the cousins were sitting down here just watching you guys interact.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I'll never
It
forget
was like,
that.
what'd you do? Get me a spittoon? I was like,
Oh my God.
so I was dying laughing because I was like, you idiot. Did you look at the date?
See, those were the times like, listen, we're an abrasive family, but I remember growing up and when the house was packed, and I'm grateful to be able to experience, to be from a big
Oh, yeah.
family.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
You know, and it's just the everyone growing up, like, and looking back through old pictures when the house was like on its third renovation
Yeah,
back
yeah,
then,
yeah.
when the whole room was set up, and like seeing Nancy and you and Pete and us as like 2 and 3 year olds
Yeah.
just watching. It's just
That front room, we just sit around that near the fireplace
and then just make fun of each
and
other.
make fun of each other. And that was Dad.
Oh.
Dad would do that all the time. You know, it was his personality, but then he had it 7 times over.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone had the same thing. You know, everyone tried to outdo somebody with a funnier
Oh
joke.
my, yeah, 100%, and it would go on forever.
Yeah, yeah.
And the laughing and the tears,
Yeah.
like, and the cousins. We were all young kids, but we
Yeah.
wouldn't be playing. We would be sitting back and just listening to everything and
Learning
just,
how to ball bust.
yeah, and learning how to ball
Pound
bust.
for pound, it was like the loudest room because everyone was laughing
Oh,
so
man.
hard. Yeah.
I'll never forget that with the jokes with, and it went on for 2 hours just
Oh, yeah.
making fun of this whole situation.
I was sitting there. Linda caught me off guard with that. I was laughing so hard. I go, because the lady will walk in. She's like, here you go. And I'm like, yeah, that's the same design. I had no idea. You know, I was like, yeah, it looks good. Yeah.
I'm just a guy picking up a gift. I
And
have
that's
no
what it
idea.
was. But she had it all wrapped up, so I couldn't see it. So I was like, and then I didn't realize the date on it until Linda opened it
She
up.
just turned it over just to check it out.
Made
What
in
a
China.
bunch of scammers.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Be careful, it's still hot from the kill. Sucker.
Sucker. She had the hair dryer on before she
Just let it out in the sun. Oh, man.
That's crazy.
Oh, that was so funny. I mean, that house, how many remodels has that house been through?
Oh, 1,000. It still needs more. I mean, Patty and I put a ton of money in for the inside, so the inside doesn't replicate the outside. So Patty had the rug guy come over, and because she wants to put a runner up, so we ripped out everything. I mean, Uncle Mike came up and he helped us, and and then it was just the way it was. It was just split. Grandma lived on one side while we fixed the other side, and it was just tons and tons of work that was done on it. So the outside hasn't changed. I redid the outside, I think, in my 20s.
You're talking the early 90s.
Yeah,
I remember when that was done.
Early 90s. So the outside, hasn't been changed forever. We changed the roof and stuff like that. And so we did completely re-renovated the inside of the house. I mean, it looks similar, but it's all open now. It looks beautiful.
But the only thing that's the same is the staircase and maybe the kids' bedrooms.
No, we replaced all staircases. They're now wider 4-foot staircases.
Well, I meant the format, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The staircase is nice and wide.
Yeah, so we widened the basement and stuff like that. So Patty's like, oh, let me get some runners in this house. And, we can put them up. We're going in the staircase. So the guy came over and I kind of met him outside, and he looks at the outside of the house. He goes, am I in the right house? I go, why? He goes, oh, nothing. It's like this house outside looks like something from Halloween. So he walks inside. He's like, I got to say one thing. Your house inside does not represent your house outside.
It's like an Airbnb where you're like, the inside is gorgeous.
Yeah. And he was like, and he said, this is one of the nicest inside of homes I've ever seen. I go, well, we're trying to get to the outside, just taking forever, because.
Well, I mean, that open floor plan, I remember putting in that beam.
Yeah.
The main beam that goes across. Were you with us when we put that in?
I did. Me and you did the plumbing.
Gene was doing.
Yeah.
Me and you did the plumbing in that
How
house.
many?
Yeah, that's right.
It's wood, then metal, then wood, then packed in. How big is that thing?
That's got to be almost, I think it's 14 inches wide. And we had
That was insane. And put it through the front window. Yeah, that was insane.
Had to crank it up. And we put 2 of them. We put 3 of them in because
But
we didn't want any headers in the looking, coming down.
I remember the original. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the original floor plan. And when you walked into the hallway and then you walked through this doorway to this room and then this doorway. I remember Chooch.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember that cat.
Yeah. She at her last day, she was peeing on the stove. It's like, did anybody clean the stove? Because there's water on it. No, it's Chooch. It's like,
Remember Cody?
This is my
yeah,
stove.
Cody. Yeah.
Remember you got Cody? So
my
Paul
poor
got Cody, and this is when he was working for the business.
Who's Cody?
Cody was a border collie,
Oh.
a border
Beautiful
collie dog.
Yeah.
So he got Cody, and then the next day he brought over. He's like, "Oh, I got this dog," and then he never took it back home. So it stayed with Grandma and Grandpa. But I was staying at the house, and my dad was from Ohio, staying at the house for a couple weeks, and it was like maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and Cody took a dump on the kitchen floor. And
Stay there for 6 weeks.
I was sleeping in the living room on the couch. My dad was in the other room sleeping on the couch. And we heard Grandpa come down. He walks into the kitchen and he goes, "Oh, the dog crapped on the floor," freaking out. So me and my dad both pretended to be asleep because we didn't want to clean it up. And we hear him in there cleaning up, gagging. Like
Right.
almost puking that it was so. He said, "This is absolutely disgusting, disgusting." But we pretended to be asleep, like we turned our.
That's so funny. That's the problem. Everyone wanted a dog. Nobody wanted to take care of it. And I was upset. I was like, "Oh, I got a dog," and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, I got to work and I got to do this."
That's how Frankie came here.
Yeah,
My
Pretty
sister
much.
got that dog.
yeah.
and
But
she
that's
was like,
the best
"Ugh."
thing you do is you bring her on the ride, so they're not alone.
Yeah.
Cody. If it wasn't for mom and dad, Cody would have been. She eventually got hit on Continental, but
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah,
but
so-
that dog needed to run.
Yeah, it did,
I mean,
yeah.
it needed.
it was trapped.
Yeah.
It couldn't. So the story when Cody was killed. So I'm sitting there. This is like my 3rd date with Patty. We're living in Maywood. I'm driving to the house, and my brother Steve calls me. He goes, "Paul, I just want to let you know Cody was killed today, hit by a car." I'm like, "What?" And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm crying like a 2-year-old.
That dog
And that's
was
when she fell in
fantastic.
love with you.
No, Patty was next to me.
He
She's
showed her
like,
soft
"What?"
side.
what happened? I'm like, my dog.
That's our date.
Yes. And she's like, my dog got killed. And she's like, who, what? Who got killed? I'm like, my dog was killed on Continental. Got hit by a car. It's like, I'm like, I'm like, okay, let's go out to dinner.
Yeah.
It's an awful feeling.
She's like texting her friend, like, I'll call you back on the date with this big fruitcake.
We're breaking up in 2
He's
minutes.
crying right now, and I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah,
Continental Ave.
Yeah,
it's
it
claimed.
It happened to
every
me
animal.
too.
yeah.
Remember? At
No.
work.
No.
Remember my mother called
Oh
me
yeah.
with Cosmo.
That's right.
My dog who lived for 17 years. Everything was good and healthy.
Yeah.
And my neighbor ended up running him over.
Oh, really?
She ended up backing. He was starting to get a little bit deaf and blind. She ended up.
Sounds like a
She
speed
backed
bump.
over him.
He
And
curled
they
up.
start-
He curled up and went to sleep behind the back tire, and then she backed. She
And they
didn't know.
backed
Oh,
over him.
man.
They called me while I was at work at the supply. We just pulled into Ferguson. They're freaking out, calling me on the phone. And he goes, "What the hell? You know what happened?" Because he saw my face, and I was like,
He's like, my dog just died.
They just killed my dog.
Yeah, yeah.
And from then, like,
Yeah.
for what was it, like 2 weeks where I worked with you
Dude, it's not
till
easy.
like 10, 11 o'clock at night because I couldn't come home and see
Yeah,
the
he
empty
couldn't,
cage.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When
yeah,
you see
yeah.
the empty cage, I was like, oh, I don't
How
like-
many animals have been lost on Continental?
No, listen, I mean, my, you know,
yeah.
we had, you know, I mean, Molly, I mean, I was sad that what happened there. I mean, it's just a freak accident, you know, I mean, and that's when I saw Patty, you know, when, you know, I saw her cry and like, see what,
Yeah.
I was like, see what I mean? I was like, no, you see, they're closer than family.
I mean, listen,
Yeah.
if when Frankie goes, we're closing the company now for a month.
We have no choice.
Remember when Grandma got Cassie and she had her cat for like 12, 13 years old, and then her back legs started to go.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're trying to pet her. You're like, oh well, about time for the old ball toss across Continental.
Give me a bite.
Go get it. Go get it.
No, they didn't stop. It's like,
No, they don't even stop.
They didn't.
The guy who hit Cody, he didn't even.
No.
He backed around and pulled off.
Nah, what a jerk.
No.
But well, again, what is he going to do? But it is a jerk thing to do. But still, I
No,
mean
you
that
pull,
that
you pull
road.
over, you hit something. It's not. Listen, I can see you hit a squirrel. Listen. Oh, what was it?
If you hit a squirrel, it's okay. But
So Sadie died. Well, our dog Sadie died. She had a liver disease, and 10 months she was gone. You know, so I remember I was driving and was like, all of a sudden I see a squirrel. I'm like, I never swerve for a squirrel. You just, you know, because I'm not gonna lose my life. I'm like, I don't want to kill it. I'm like, you know, almost got in a 5-car accident because of a stupid squirrel. You know, but funny.
And then I remember. I mean,
I remember one time
Molly.
yeah,
my mother
That's
hit
sad. That was sad.
she hit a groundhog. She was driving me to soccer. She hit a groundhog, and you just hear the dunk clunk, and we couldn't find the field, so we had to turn around, keep passing this groundhog that was now dead in the road with his tongue sticking out, and we had to pass it like 3 times, and every time she saw it, she started tearing up a little bit. Oh my god, I can't look at that.
Well, that's when Pete was telling the story about Aunt Linda when she hit a possum. And she felt so bad that she had to run it over again. Like, some story. Pete
That
said,
doesn't even make sense.
Pete, the way Pete
just to
said,
put it out of his misery.
Pete says, you know that possums play possum.
He thought he was scot free, but you ran him back
He
over.
goes, the thing was still alive. It was
He's
just
like laying
playing.
there with one eye open, like, all right, she's almost around the corner, and then she just comes
Is
back.
she gone yet?
Pete's a great
Oh,
storyteller.
yeah, exactly.
He's so funny. You know what? Well, my dad's a great story.
Yeah. You forget. You get him on these podcasts, you'll start laughing. I don't care who's listening to it.
I wish I could record Christmases like 15, 20 years ago. It was so funny. I remember I had a couple friends sleep over one time. This is when Grandpa was alive, and so my grandfather used to play the guitar, but he knew 3 chords. He knew 3 chords, and he altered every song that he learned into those 3 chords. So then I started picking up the guitar. I played piano my whole life, and I didn't have a piano, so I started messing with the guitar. And then I figured out how to like individually pick the strings, because you're not allowed to touch my guitar anymore. But I remember
You're getting better than me. I don't like it.
Exactly. Don't touch this thing.
I had lived with them. My parents moved out to Ohio, so I was living with Grandma and Grandpa for a couple of years, and I had a couple of friends stay over. And every morning he would come down and he would play hymns on the guitar. And my 2 friends passed out. They were sleeping on the floor in the living room, and they woke up to him leaning over them playing
Oh
hymns.
my god, that's weird.
It's so funny.
His feet are on
He
their
had
back.
no shame.
His feet are on their back. It's like, excuse me, I'm trying to play here.
He had no shame.
Well, you're talented musically. You're musically inclined. You were in a band, right?
I was in a couple bands.
I know every time we go to a customer's house, if they have a piano, that's
Yeah,
it.
it's getting
Oh, you
Like-
jump on it?
He jumps right on it.
You should. You should.
Absolutely.
Is your piano tuned?
I try to get my kids to play. Like Abby has a great voice, but she doesn't want to sing. She
doesn't want to sing in front of people.
Yeah, I think she doesn't want. I hear her like singing through her bedroom door, and like she's singing to songs. I'm like, and then she was in sixth grade. She had a solo part, and the top singer at Riverdale senior year heard her voice and like, Abby, you should be a singer because you're gonna go far with this.
She didn't even do choir in high school.
Nope. No, she's
Wow.
It's sad because listen, Abby. She doesn't want to be that front person, which is fine. She doesn't want to be that, because I think she's shy in that way,
Yeah.
but her voice, I mean, it's got to come from grandma's side, but
It has to because I'm musically inclined. David can sing. Do you know David can sing?
oh yeah, I heard it sing.
Timmy and Justin in down south in Alabama. Well, they make music. You've heard Tim.
Yeah,
play
Oh,
I've
won't you
guitar. They
come
all-
down to Bama? Southern music.
That's all they have.
Tim's
That's all they know.
on the jug.
Justin's on the spoons clicking it. No, I mean Matt and Jennifer are Jennifer does photography. I mean, there's something about art and music for our family for something that we picked that up very. It's
Yeah.
like in our blood.
My family
That's from your mom's side.
appreciates that, but crushes it in my family.
What do you mean? What do you
Like
mean
my
crushes?
my sister, my younger sister
not
was
allowed
the
to
only
sing?
one. Yeah, my younger sister was the only one. She was like when she was younger. Everybody has dreams,
Right.
Right. My younger sister's dream
They go to your
was
family,
to
get
be
them
a
crushed.
singer. my younger sister's dream was to be a singer.
his father will crush your dreams in 20 minutes.
That's what it is. We're dream crushers, and we laugh about it later. Exactly. All
I
right.
could have been somebody. No, you couldn't have.
No, go wash
No.
the dishes.
Yeah. Go get a real job. All right. Get to do something that pays the bills. My younger sister wanted to be a singer, and she was fine. But my father and my mother and the siblings joined in too.
Yeah.
We were just like, are you out of your mind?
Well, hold on. Let me interject here because we don't encourage each other to do music.
Yeah.
We go get a real job and do that on the side.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm with your father on
I
this
agree.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like winning the lottery to become a famous singer and
Yeah.
actually make a lucrative. But for some reason, our family's very creative. Our family's very outgoing, and I don't know. I mean, Grandpa as the patriarch, he was just a funny guy, and what a story.
Yeah.
I mean, listening to him growing up in Jersey, we talked about on the very first podcast, him growing up in Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Where my father has his
He
business now.
grew up a couple blocks from your father's
Yeah.
dealership. He grew up in that area for the first 16 years of his life, and then he joined the military at 16, 17.
Yeah.
He went in early
I don't know.
just to get the hell out
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he had a
But I
horrible,
changed everything for him because, he wanted he wanted to get out of Elizabeth. His mother and him never got along, he got along, but his mother hated everybody.
No. So, well, I mean, you would probably know better than me, but
No, actually, you know better than me because some of the stories you
he used to
telling
sit
me,
there.
I was
'cause
like, oh yeah, you're right.
he used to take us all out and just talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
But his mother, his twin brother Rocky.
Yeah,
His mother loved Rocky. She hated him.
that was it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I remember my grandfather told me that you guys didn't go see his mom a lot, right?
never.
He said the one time he remembers meeting Grandpa's mother, he walked in with his kids that she had not met. She goes, "What the hell are you doing?"
Oh yeah. No, I remember that.
Yeah, my dad will never forget that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he had a horrible relationship with his mom.
Yeah, well, it was her. I mean, listen, he had a great relationship with his brother Rocky. Near the end they were really close. But that was about it. Even his sister Minnie, she was like the mother. She would bust
Right.
his chops. But Dad always had people around him that would always, bust his chops, and
Yeah.
that's why he gave it right back. You
Yeah.
know. But then you had some real idiots around him that were just idiot. Like he used to go to the deli every morning. And so my dad and I were working one day, and he gets out of the truck because after he had his heart attack, he got back, he had a heart transplant, or before he had the heart transplant, he started feeling a little better.
Yeah.
And they gave him a defibrillator, and then so he worked with me a couple of times, and then so one day we're in the driveway. I get out of the truck, and I'm like, "Come on, Dad, let's go. Let's get something to eat." He goes, "Yeah, give me a second." So he goes, "I just want to get these buckets off the back of the truck." So he's carrying the bucket, kind of walking down the driveway, and he goes, "I think I'm going to pass out." Boom, drops to the ground, and he's like trying to breathe. He's like, so at the same time, I'm sitting there. One of the owners from the deli, I never liked this guy. The red hair guy I always liked. The dark hair guy was always a whatever.
Which deli are you talking about?
River Edge Deli down. He used to go every morning to the River Edge Deli.
Is it still? It's not still there.
No. That's Mike's.
What is it now?
It's that whole new strip mall. They ripped down. It was the old Huffman. Huffman Coos.
Okay.
Used to be Huffman Coos down
Right.
there, and right next to Huffman Coos was the River Edge Deli. So Dad would go there every morning for his coffee, hang out with the guys in the back, and there was two owners. Ted. There was Ted, and I can't remember the other owner. Somebody else would know. So Ted was kind of like the jerk of the owners. So he's driving by, he sees my dad on the ground. He sees me trying to, he pulls up, rolls down at me. He goes, "Hey, is everything all right?" I'm like, "No, can you call the police?" He goes, "Yeah, no problem." Rolls window up and takes off. I'm like, "You got to be kidding me."
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, drives away. I'm like, "Hello?" So there's no cell phones back then.
No.
Yeah.
Billy Walker comes running over from the next door. And he's like, "Paul, what do you need?" I go, "Just call the police. We need help right here." He gets on the phone, runs inside, calls the police. They come over. They take him to hospital. And Dad was in hospital, I think, for another month after that. That's when he got his heart transplant. He never worked plumbing after that again. Even when he got his heart transplant, he goes, "I'm done."
He still went out, but he didn't do really anything.
Nah, he went around for right.
And I mean, he was what 120 pounds heavier than you are,
Oh yeah.
and he went down when he was in the hospital. Like
He was.
so skinny that it was so weird to see. It was insane to see him like a strong big guy like that just dwindle down to nothing.
I remember him on the porch on 4th of July during the parade, and it was just after he had the defibrillator and the operations, and he was like, I think he was close to 280, but he was middle 280. Like you see him right now. It was like, and he was on the front porch. He looked like he was 100 years old. He looked like he had.
I think it's ages him so much.
It aged and stuff. But when he got his heart transplant, he looked like he was a young guy.
Yeah, bounced right back.
Bounced right back, and even when he died, he was in his deathbed. He wasn't like, he wasn't old looking. It was just the whatever he had going on inside his body just took him over.
Yeah.
He told me he woke up during his heart transplant.
Yeah, you told me that. That freaks me out.
Really?
He woke up. He told me this.
I know this.
Yep. He woke up during his heart transplant, and it's actually a common thing. He woke up. He was wide open.
Wow.
No.
Saw it.
I don't like that.
And the nurse goes, his eyes are open. The doctor goes, he'll pass out. And he did.
They do brain surgery. Did you see the video of them doing brain surgery?
While you're awake.
While you're awake.
Yeah.
They had this guy, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, I forget, but playing the violin
Yep.
while they're doing brain
Absolutely.
surgery.
Really?
Yeah.
Awake.
But they,
Doing
you know
brain
why they
surgery.
do that?
No.
To make sure that they're
You're alive.
on the right
If they don't
track.
poke the wrong thing in
If
the
they
brain.
poke the wrong thing, all of a sudden you go.
Let's see if we can change his music.
Anybody smell pancakes?
No, they want to hear a different song. Play that new song by Bruno Mars. I don't want to hear that song anymore. And they just poke the proper spot.
No, you could do that. They,
Just hit that nerve more.
Yeah.
isn't that insane? I mean, the whole medical thing. But he had his heart transplant. That he got a 23-year-old heart.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was in his late 50s,
Yeah.
and he had a 23-year-old heart in him. So he celebrated 2 birthdays.
He got his heart transplant. He died at 69,
Yeah,
50. He had a heart attack at 59. And he had, I think it was a couple of years later, 4 years later. No, not even that long. 3 years later, he had a heart transplant. I know he lasted 10 years with the heart.
11.
11 years. Yeah.
11 years.
Yeah, it was 11 years with the heart.
Well, it's the medication that eventually.
Yeah, got him.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's a funny story because I'm sitting there and the doctor, I'm like, he got all cancer through his liver and his whatever. He got it all in body and his organs. And I'm like, I'm talking to the doctor. I'm like, yeah, the medication got him. He goes, No, it didn't. It
No.
wasn't a Medicaid. I'm like, yes,
Yeah,
it was.
I
My
guess
brother.
it is.
So my brother works at New York Presbyterian now. He works in the transplant unit, and he goes, the transplants are what's successful.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
go very well. He goes, everything that they do is very successful. It is the medication.
Yeah.
That's what takes
gave him
everybody's
leukemia.
down, because you have to take a medication for the surgery that you got. Now you have to take a medication for the
Yeah.
liver problems that you're going to have with
Yep.
the medication
Yep.
that you got from the surgery, and then it just keeps going down the line and
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
line, and eventually all that stuff, that's what starts to deteriorate you.
Yeah, yeah.
And on top of that, throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical
Yeah,
bills. It's
well,
like, what's the
that too.
point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the only thing that was good about between carpentry and plumb, during carpentry, I was trying to do this business and sell insurance, A.L. Williams, and I did good in it, and I did very well as far as selling stuff and hiring people, and I won a lot of trips. Like I won trips to San Diego, San Francisco. I won trips to
What, for
Remi-
like
Yeah.
being like the top salesman or
top
something?
salesman. So I won that, and I was able. I never went on those trips. I went on maybe one. I went to one in Boca Raton. So I sent Grandma and Grandpa to San Francisco. I sent them to
Oh, wow.
Bahamas. I sent them to Boca Raton. So those are vacations they would have never had, and
Yeah.
these vacations weren't like, no, they were top hotels. Boca Raton Beach Club Hotel. They went to the one in San Francisco.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was top of the line. They were there for 7 days. So Dad was so nervous about that. They'd find out that he wasn't the guy who did the trip. So he wore my name tag. And I'm like, Dad, they don't care. So he wore my name tag, and it was Paul. So he's on the trolley one day, and there's a bunch of people from the company, and he's sitting there. He's like with mom, and they're going up down the trolley. And one guy from the company's like, "Hey, Paul. Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Where you from?" And my dad's like looking at him like, "No, I'm not Paul." He goes, "I'm Richard." He goes, "Oh, who's Paul?" He goes, "Oh, no, I am Paul."
You're not even going to play the character
I
correctly.
can't even remember.
He goes, it just when he told me that story, I go, "Dad, you didn't have to wear any of that stuff." I go, "Nobody.
They
cared."
don't care.
No,
Yeah,
he just say my son. He was a vice president with the company and did that. But I did that for a 3-year stint during when I was doing carpentry, and then after that, I just that's when I went over to plumbing.
I'm surprised he was so concerned with that, because everywhere else in his life, he just
Yeah.
didn't care.
No.
He would talk to anybody, bust anybody's chops. I told you this story the other day when we went to the diner.
The jokes
he
that
used
he
to
used to
make
tell.
this stupid joke every time we went out to eat.
Skin.
So stupid. Oh, what happened to your face? And the person goes, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, there's skin all over it." And it's just, and Grandma would just cringe every time. But he asked this one waitress that. He goes, "What happened to your face?" She goes, "Well, actually, years ago, I had gotten into a really bad accident." And he was mortified.
Yeah.
And he never did it again. He never said it again. And my grandmother was probably so pleased because he finally got his comeuppance.
Yeah.
But every time, like,
She probably paid that the waitress.
listen,
Just
I'm
say
going
that something
to
happened to
tell
you.
you something. What my grandparents have gone through, and the fact that they stuck together,
Yeah.
and then later in life, how they would
Old school.
always go places
Yeah.
together. Like if she was going to the grocery store,
Yeah.
he'd be like,
He's
"All right,
there.
I'm coming." He'll be right there. Like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable what they went through at the beginning of in the middle of their marriage to wind up like that. I mean, it's
Yeah, but that's old school. That's like that.
Yeah.
That's all they had. Like our vacations weren't any vacations going. Like they would pile 7 kids plus luggage, and any animal we had. We would drive out to Colorado, not knowing where we're going, and then my mom would either call someone she knew out there she went to high school with.
yeah.
And then we would bombard their house with 7 kids.
Running like
I thought it
Rugrats.
was just you and your husband. Like, no, it's all 7.
Yeah.
It's 9 of us.
I heard. So,
And then we went to Texas and we did that. But back then people would take you in your home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today they're like, well, I got things to do.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, back then they could make a phone call and then people would hang out with you. Today people wouldn't even, no, I can't do it.
Do you remember on the first episode we did, I told the story about the bicycles? Do you remember
Oh
that?
yeah, I remember that. And I remember my bicycle. We all came downstairs, and I was like, I can't believe we all got bikes. And I think Peter and I were out already on the road that morning, Christmas time, riding around. I remember I went around to the block, and my buddy Joe Bava lived there with my best friend. Still's my best friend today. He goes, "Oh, it's cool. You guys got bikes?" I'm like, "Yeah." So there was a thing back then we called ghost riding. So you would get on a bike, and all of a sudden you jump off it and see how far the bike would go.
Yeah.
So I had this brand new bike, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, let me try it." Was flying down the road, jumps off the bike, and lets the bike go. I'm like, "What are you doing?" That's
The new one?
the brand new bike. Things like boom, boom, like end over end, hits bent the handlebars. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, I hate you. Yeah, it's like.
I can't remember. I can't imagine wheeling that bike home.
Oh, and actually, Grandpa fixed it. He's like, he took one of his pipe wrenches out and bent it back up, and it was like, all right.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I was like, I spent 48 hours trying to get this thing done.
I haven't slept in 3 days.
You want to know why I got a heart attack? Because of all of you. All right? That's what my father always says. He goes, do you understand if it wasn't for all of you, okay, I would live
Like a king?
Like a king. I would have none of you. I would have
No, he wouldn't.
so much money.
He would live in a one-bedroom apartment with a chair and a TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
that's what every dude would do.
Yeah.
It's like, I live like, no, I wouldn't.
We talk about that all the time. Like, guys will be happy with that.
Yeah.
They're happy with
just as long
nothing.
as I have a roof over my head, somewhere to sit, and maybe something to watch.
I have way too big of a house for me personally. It's like I need to just be like I can sit in one room and just like
Women don't understand how we could be happy
Yeah.
with so little.
Yeah, They're like why does every guy like a basement? Well, because that's it. That's where we go.
That's
Because
Exactly
we're away
what-
from you.
Exactly. It's cool. So you have, how old is Nikki now? 11?
Nikki is
12?
Yeah, when's he coming to work with us?
He's gonna be 16 on Sunday.
He's gonna be 16 years old.
16. Abby's gonna be 18 in August.
So what are the odds? Because we're just moving down the line, Grandpa, you, me. What are the odds that Nikki would show any interest in this?
Well, listen. How long did it take you to?
I
show
never
it?
wanted.
Well, what did
Exactly.
you? Hold on. I got to bring this up because
What?
yesterday when we stopped by the house to drop some stuff off, what did you say? What did you say? He was helping you out with something on your truck, and you go, "Are you guys sure that you want him to come out with you?" What was it? What was it that he was doing with you?
Oh, he's lifting off the rack because we have to rack up when we go away on vacation, so I can put a toolie on top. And it's a simple thing. I'm like, Nikki, just lift up and step back. And meanwhile, he's getting wrapped around his thing. I'm like, I don't think you want him to work with me. It's
I'm
like,
okay with that.
No,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
I'm okay.
no,
there
he's a good. He would learn quick, and the fact that when he has his parents telling him, kids are lazy, but when he's working for somebody, he would learn how to do it. But
I mean, I had Grandpa. Like I said, Grandpa used to take me, Mike, David.
yeah,
He used to take us out, usually when we hit around 10, 11, 12 years old. And I remember I didn't mind going out with him. First of all, he always bought us lunch.
Yep.
Every time he would buy us lunch and then buy us something on the way home.
Yep.
But I used to say, I will never, ever do
I want to go
plumbing,
back to that
ever.
lunch
sound like
story.
your dad.
And then
What was that lunch story with your brother?
What?
The lunch story with your brother that you tell me all the time when he took your brother out to
He used to
lunch.
take my brother out.
Did he go to hot dogs in Mood 46?
No, he goes, listen to this. This is so funny. He comes back. First of all, he takes my brother out. And he goes, let's go get lunch.
To give a little bit of context, because your brother, you're a big guy. The Courts are big.
Yeah, but
All right.
this was my brother was 10. Oh, he
Yeah,
was
but
still
he
he was
was
a
still
beefy
6'5".
10-year-old.
They're big, and I'm not saying fat. They're just big boys.
Yeah, he was.
I don't have
he
that
was,
problem.
He was a beefy 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And my dad, I mean, my brother.
Football players. Just
yeah.
think football players.
Some-
And his Phil's big. What are you, 6'3"?
6'2", 6'3", yeah.
6'2", 6'3". Your brother
I'm not going to tell you my weight.
encapsulates you. All right, he's much bigger than you.
Fills the doorway.
Well, my brother was husky, and he takes him out. He brings him to lunch. And my brother, and he's like, "What do you want for lunch?" And my brother's like, "I want Taco Bell." I was like, "All right, I'll take you to Taco Bell, but I want White Castle." My brother's like, "No, I want Taco Bell." So they walk up to White Castle. My brother's like, "Can I get a number 2 and a number 7?" My grandpa's like, "All right, fine. You worked hard today."
It's like I didn't make that much money yet.
We're still charging only $45 for flappers. What are you doing?
So he takes him
Lunch,
to Taco
65
Bell.
bucks.
My brother's eating it in the truck because we never got fast food when we were growing
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So, and every time we came down here, Grandma and Grandpa would always have cold cuts in
Oh,
the fridge, and they would take us out to
Ham
eat
and Swiss cheese.
Yep. So my grandpa's like, "Well, I'm gonna go get White Castle." You ever had White Castle? My brother's like, "No." So he goes and gets White Castle, and my brother has scarfed down the Taco Bell. And Grandpa goes through the drive-thru. He gets himself White Castle. He's like, "You want to try one?" My brother's like, "Sure." He takes a bite. He's like, "Oh, those are good. Can I get a sack of 10?"
A sack of 10?
Yeah, and he ate it.
He's 10 years old.
It was an anomaly watching this kid growing up. Like he could pack it away, and now he's just a monster. Like 6'4", 6'5".
He's 6'6".
Yeah,
he's a big
just
boy.
a big guy.
Yeah, at least you guys grew up. We had grandpa. We had nothing. Like we would get our cabinets be full with the biggest surprise cereal we had was Cheerios, and it wasn't Cheerios that like today's Cheerios. It was the off-brand Cheerios, and then it was off-brand puff rice, and it wasn't regular milk. It was mixed milk. So
What was it?
Mixed milk,
Mixed milk?
Like powdered milk.
powdered milk.
No, not gonna happen.
So my mom would go down, make the powdered milk. We had nothing. Like one day, I think my mom came home with Lucky Charms. Before it got out of the bag or the box, it was completely eaten out.
That was
It was completely
I know
eaten out.
that.
My mom tells a story when my dad and mom got first married. I guess they lived with grandma and grandpa for like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And my mom is this country Ohio, nice
crying.
country, quiet, like reserved.
Then she met
And
the
then
Cordts
she
family.
comes out here,
right.
and it's just a madhouse. She cooks, she bakes an apple pie from scratch, and she's so proud of it. And she puts it out within 20 minutes. Everyone comes in, it's gone.
You're like
and she comes
pigeons
back
on
to
a-
like crumbs, and she's heartbroken because she wanted everyone to sit down and have a nice meal. And my dad's like, "Listen, that's never going to happen here."
You'll have nothing nice here, and you'll.
We were like pigeons in the park. We were like, things were like
You should have told her. Listen, at least everybody
swarming
liked it. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
there was nothing that landed. That was nothing. Our kitchen cabinets that were empty all the time, except for canned food.
That's why you guys are huge. You guys are big because you guys just ate. Whenever it came out
No,
of
it
the
never,
oven,
never in there.
it
though.
was never.
Listen, you look at pictures of them. Everyone was Everyone was so
Oh yeah,
skinny.
we were skinny. Yeah, we were.
I'm not talking
skinny.
about fat. I'm talking about big. And when I mean big, like I don't have that. I'm
Yeah, yeah.
5'5" on a good day. All right. You guys are big.
Yeah, our
I'm
family.
not talking fat. Yeah.
Our family. So Nikki is sitting there, and we were talking about. He was helping the rack. I go, Nikki, listen, why don't you work with Max and Philip? And he's like, doing what? I'm like, plumbing. He goes,
What do you think they do?
What do you think our family
Plumbing
business?
and heating.
He goes, oh, plumbing? Yeah, nah, I got football. I go, yeah. He goes, wait, do I get paid? I'm like, yes, you get paid.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, maybe I will.
Does he want to? I mean, I don't care.
I mean,
I'll put up with it. Listen, Max has his own jobs. I got my own jobs. I'll take Nikki out. I'll throw him on, jobs just 3 days. That's how we started.
yeah, exactly. Now he'll do something like that.
Listen, he's 4 years late. I mean, me, Michael, and David, and everyone else. We started. I remember every time we used to come down to the house, and it was after you took over. After you took over, every time we came to the house, we knew we would get suckered into like separating or cleaning fittings or something, or cleaning out the shed. And
Hey, take you 10 minutes, 4 hours later.
Yeah, I know. And I can't grab onto
I
anything.
hate this.
It was always something.
No,
but
listen, Abby's going to college next year, so after she graduates, she's going to be a plumber. Because the jobs are out there; they're all blue collar jobs.
yeah,
All these kids are.
especially now. But
Yeah.
even so, nobody still wants to do it. We're going to be in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. Well, listen, the thing as far as employment, that's the hardest thing. Like even in my school district, if somebody shows interest of being a custodian, I'm like, oh, you're hired.
Yeah.
But there's a process, and then our business administrator is like, are you really going through these guys? I'm like, at this point, I'm trying to hire somebody who just wants to work.
Yeah.
So it's not just the plumbing
It's like
industry.
impossible to find.
Not the electrical. It's every industry, even our industry. And then, and then all of a sudden you'll get a spurt of people who want to work. So like in our business, I think that hiring is going to be the next big hurdle that we got to do.
Yeah.
You've got the numbers down. Now we can bring people in to test out and
Right.
say, okay, this is what you're worth.
It's tough to find.
Yeah.
There is no the work ethic has been bred out. We talked about when I was in high school, everyone had an after school job.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got accustomed to working for somebody by the time you were 14, 15 years old. But now the kids just aren't working. They're in sports, and like I had to order from a local pizza place the other day, and the guy does hire young kids for the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there talking to this one guy, like
Oh my god.
this one
yeah.
kid, like, have you ever had a
How did you get
conversation with somebody
How did you get
before?
your socks on this
Yeah,
morning? That's
is this
what
your
I think
first
sometimes.
time you've ever talked to somebody on the phone? I had ordered pizza. I ordered it on the lighter side because I like lighter pizza, and they sent me a well done pizza. So I drove it back. I called the kid. I'm like, listen, I didn't order this. I ordered a well done pizza. He doesn't say anything. Yeah. I just hear him breathing on the other end. I'm like, hello?
You know he's standing
like,
there with his mouth open.
I was like, well, what should I do about this? He's like, and then he doesn't say anything again. I'm like, I'll see you in a few minutes. I couldn't believe it. Like,
that's who you're getting today. You're getting the kids who are on the phone all the time. They don't have to relate. We're up in, we just took a vacation up in Block Island. And we'll bring up certain kids that are in the family. So one of my buddies brought his daughter up with 5 of her friends. So they're at the table one night sitting around, 5 of them, just 5 of them not even talking. They're on their phone.
Yeah.
Not even talking.
Yeah.
And I walked up, I'm like, are you guys going to talk to each other? Oh, no, we are.
It's crazy.
And it's sad because that's where things are going. It's like
it's a totally different world.
The phone has killed everything for the I think this is done on purpose. I was just
100%.
I was reading an article in the I think it was a Post. I actually pulled it out. I was going to send it to you guys, but it says the new depression, and they were talking about depression like back in the 20s and 30s when we had a depression, before we went to war. But the new depression is kids. 45% are committing suicide. They're not. They don't know what to do in life. They don't. Oh yeah, I'll show you the article. I'll send it to you. But it's sad. It's sad
horrible.
that these kids are. They feel no self-worth because they're watching stupid idiots on these podcasts that have no idea, and they just think, oh, these guys are making millions. So what? They have no talent.
There's also a whole bunch of sociopaths that are on TikTok now because I see, when we talked about it before too, I see these kids pulling pranks or doing things on TikTok
you guys
for
talked
views
about
that it's just plain cruel.
Yeah.
And they thrive off likes, and the crueler it is, the more likes they get. And kids want to emulate that because they get more likes. It's just, I don't know where we're going to end up.
No, it's sad. But
I'm hoping that because we talked about trying to put forth a scholarship that we can get kids encouraged into the trades. That's fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm hoping that it'll kind of just energize the industry and energize companies around us to get kids to do manual. Listen, when you come home and you stink and you've done manual labor all day, you've accomplished something. Yeah. There's no question that you've earned your paycheck for that day.
I mean, how many times you pull off a boiler and also you see the rack and the design you put on the wall, and you see all the piping you did, and you're like, wow, I did all that.
Yep.
All nice and level
or
and
a house
straight.
that you pass by when you're driving and you're like, ooh, I did that.
I did that house. Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole thing, the apprenticeship program, or not apprenticeship program, but the scholarship thing, and I got to talk to Riverdale about this, is that's big. I mentioned to a couple people, and like, that's the best thing. You guys should do that, because there was only one kid out, I think, about 125 kids that received a scholarship to go to trade school. One kid. Yeah. The other ones for Yale and this and that. And the other thing, I'm like, it's just crazy. But I think that's a good idea for a company to do.
I think it's a good idea for most companies to do, to plug in and get kids energized to get into the trades, because you can't automate us out. Yeah. You can't. We're essential workers. Everyone's going to.
Well, Max said he saw some guy, an AI doing sheet rock.
Well, yeah. That is a crazy video. But he also made a good point, like, you're not going to hear a doorbell ring, and then the AI is within like a blue collar t-shirt.
It's not going to show up to your house. But then again, you have
your job. Just to let you know, I have to shut down the water.
I saw it. They had a robot packing boxes, like going back and forth between the assembly line, packing the boxes, and then dropping it off inside of like a crate. And then eventually it fell over, and it couldn't get back up. And I was like, "You see?
Yeah.
Dumb."
Well, that was like me at lunchtime today. But listen, I've definitely enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, I love sharing stories. I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I stay tuned for the next one. You're welcome to, like, anytime you want to come on. We'll just BS and talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we can go for hours. After a while, I'm like, this is like a 2-hour one.
But guys, thanks for listening. Plum Bums, episode 4. Stay tuned for more stuff. We got some good stuff coming up. But again, thanks for listening.
Have
a good one.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.